Hey everyone, I'm doing a tutorial on spawn triggers because people seem to think they're confusing for some reason. So I'm going to try to explain it simply. So as you can see in this beautifully drawn diagram right here, spawn triggers activate other triggers. Now why is this useful? Because you can do things such as this, where one spawn trigger activates multiple triggers. You can also do something like this, where multiple spawn triggers activate the same thing. Or you can make loops, which is two spawns that point to each other. So over in this video, we're going to be talking about three different types of spawning: single spawn, repeating spawn, and loops. So the first thing we're going over is single spawns. These are the simplest kind of spawn triggers, but they're also probably the least useful. So here's kind of the basics. If you want to activate this alpha trigger by a spawn, you're going to need to add it to a group. So first of all, make sure it has spawn triggered, because that's how you do the entire thing. And then what I mean by this for here is this isn't actually part of the trigger. I just put this in here. It means that this trigger is in group 4. If I go to it's in group 5. So this 4 here means that the alpha trigger is in group 4. So whenever something spawns group 4, the alpha trigger will activate. So one reason you'd want to use this is, look over here on the left side of the screen. I want all this stuff here to activate right at the beginning of the level, but it's kind of cluttered over there. So I might want to grab all of this, move it over to the side. I'll add it to the next free group, which is 6, and I'll make sure it's all on spawn triggered. And then what I can do is put a spawn trigger put a spawn trigger at the beginning. Make sure it's activating group 6, no delay, it looks all good, and it is still the exact same as it was, but now you can kind of organize these however you want. It doesn't matter the position of them, so I could go like this, or I could like move this one all the way over here, but they will still all activate right at the beginning of the level because they're all spawned by the 6. So another reason you'd want to use a single spawn trigger is for on-death scenarios. So if you want to, for example, let's say that when we die, we want to change the background to white. So we're going to make background white and make it spawn triggered. Make it, let's say, group 7, and now all we have to do is grab an on death trigger, which is basically just a spawn trigger that happens when you die. Make it activate group 7, and now if we test it out, let me see. Yep, works. Alright, so now we're going to be looking at repeating spawn, which is probably one of the more useful aspects of the spawn trigger. So let's say that while we're listening to our song, we want the background to pulse to the music. I already have our pulse trigger set up right like that. And yes, we could just copy and paste this and then put it, like this, but that's not a good idea, because what if you want to change all of them? You'd have to go to each one, or you'd have to select them all, which, if you're building an entire level, it might take a while. So instead, what we're going to do is take one of them, and we're going to add it to group 8, and select spawn triggered. But because we want this one to be activated multiple times, click multi-trigger. So now, if we place a spawn trigger like this, we activate group 8, and then let's place another one here, here, and then maybe here. Now, it also doesn't matter where we put this anymore, we can put it anywhere we want, and now it'll repeat the trigger every single time you cross a spawn 8. Okay, so here's a more advanced thing you can do with the spawn trigger. So right here I have this deadlocked guy shooting his deadlocked thingy, and let's say that I want to be able to activate that just by placing one spawn trigger. So I already have this entire thing on group 2. So what I would do is I would make a spawn triggered here, multi-trigger, because we want it to happen multiple times, and the next free group is 9. And this will make group 2 turn on, just say like that. But we don't want it to turn off for, a second after we turn it on. So we need to use another spawn trigger. So right here, we'll make this one 9 multi-trigger as well. spawn trigger, multi-trigger, and we'll make it activate 10, but with a delay of, let's say, 0.5. And now we can place our next alpha trigger, give it group 10, and spawn trigger, multi-trigger, and make it turn off group 2, like this. So what this will do is these two get activated at the same time, but then this one waits half a second and then activates this second alpha trigger. So now all I have to do is place a spawn 9, and now every single time I place a spawn 9, it will do all of that. Test it out. Perfect. Okay, so the last thing we're going to be talking about is loops. So I have a small example prepared right here. Did you see what I did there? Anyway, these two spawn triggers point towards each other. So spawn 11 and spawn 12. To see, this spawn 11 is in the group 12, and same thing with the 12, it's in group 11. And they both have a delay of 1. So when this is activated, it'll wait a second, then call this one. And then it'll wait a second, call this one. It'll keep doing that just forever. So one thing we do need in every loop is a way to start it, because they're both on spawn triggered, so they won't activate. So you need to have a separate one over here that is basically when your loop is about to start. So call either of those, 11. So now when we pass this point, our loop will start, and every 1 second they will keep activating each other. So let's get into some uses for loops. So the thing loops are good for is repeating a certain group of triggers. So let's say that we want our guy here to move up and down. So what we'll do is we'll make a new move trigger that is spawn trigger, multi-trigger, and the entire thing's in group 1. We want him to move up 5 blocks in 1 second, and let's put some easing on it so it doesn't look bad. There we go. And make sure it's in group 11. And now, so when this is activated, it will tell this move trigger to start. So we can put another one here and make it 12, and just make it the exact opposite of that. So we're going to move down 50 for 1 second. So now, once this starts, the entire process will repeat itself for the rest of the level. Let's test it out, and there, it works. So another cool thing you can do with loops is make some kind of a moving background or just moving blocks that keep moving throughout the entire level. So I have an example here. So I made another loop, 15 and 16. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take our blocks that we want to move, and I'm going to spend 1 second moving them down 10, which is 1 block, and make sure that that is group 15 spawn triggered multi-trigger. And then let's do the same thing here, except we're going to have it go up 10, and we're going to make it instant. 0 move time, and then 16 instead of 15. So what this is going to do is it's going to move these blocks down, and then right when they hit the bottom, it's going to move them back up, and it'll keep moving them down. Let's test it out, make sure it works. And it does work, but I put these thingies in the wrong spot, so I'm going to move them like this. Yes. And so as you can see, these 4 are actually the same, or these 2 groups are actually the same. I just have one of them with the ceiling and floor blocks, and then one of them without, so you can see what it looks like with both. So as you can see here, it looks like these ones are just perpetually moving downwards, when in reality this is what is happening here. So that is going to be it for this tutorial. If you have any questions, put your Discord in the comments and I will message you. And yeah, also if you have anything else to request, put that in the comments as well. And yeah, that's it. Bye.